All right, thank you guys for joining us for another episode 88 of Black Coffee and Crime. Welcome to all who have joined this conversation. We want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers. I'm sorry I didn't mention you by name because I ain't writing down, but I do appreciate it. We all appreciate you subscribing, liking, and sharing like you should do. They taught you that in kindergarten. I didn't learn that very well, but I'm telling you to do it. So we appreciate that. So this week, we're going to jump right into this. We're going to talk about Jeffrey. We were going to talk about him last week. We were going to kind of do like a quick show, and then we were going to kind of table it because it's a lot of controversy, a lot of new controversy about Jeffrey. I think from a lot of young people. And so 2 weeks after the premiere on Netflix, the movie's actually called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. 2 weeks after, it's still hot topic. So we're going to talk about Jeffrey. And if we have time, we're going to talk about Sister Wives and Cody because I can't stand Cody. So if we got time, we're going to talk about Cody, even though it's not a crime. There goes Jackie with her face. I don't know if she's talking to the son or the puppy.
I know we're talking to Cash.
But she's giving the business right now. All right, so Dahmer, the Monster Story came out last week. Depending on how old you are, you might have actually lived through the actual story when it broke in 1992. If you did live through that, watching Monster is not a shock to you. I think the biggest difference in watching it is because we have a different perspective. Rather than watching the news, now we have a scripted story that makes perfect sense because it it does dive deep into who Jeffrey might have been as a kid growing up, and you kind of get an idea of why he became who he became. So I want to be honest, full transparency, I stopped at episode 9. I'm not going to say I couldn't get past it. I just stopped there because even though I watch all kinds of stuff, I needed a palate cleanser. And of course, my palate cleanser was like watching Evil Lives Here, which is really weird. I've stopped watching Jeffrey and I go like to Evil
Nice, wholesome TV family.
Wholesome TV family viewing. Evil Lives Here in American Monster.
So since you stopped at 9, did you get to the part I liked how they weaved in John Wayne Gacy? Did you see that part?
No.
See, that's why you need to finish it.
It was a great.
I was like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Yes.
Okay, so I was like,
oh, okay.
I will have to continue, and I will say that that's a flaw of mine. Is if I stop watching something for too long, I very rarely go back to it. But I will finish this up. But I think I got the meat and the potatoes of what I needed to get from Monster from this. So I'm going to start with you, Jackie, since you're the youngest of the three of us. Do you remember this story breaking? Like, can you recall? Because you're a couple years younger than us.
Surprisingly, I do. Because my father was very involved. He's always been the type of parent that's involved when something massive is going on in the world. Like, he's very engaged. So yes, I actually do remember this. Now, do I remember as many details as I've learned over the course of years doing my own research? No, obviously not. But
Girl, we don't either.
Remember that case. No, I mean, like, some people be like, well, did you like, no, I didn't know that. What I do know is that it was on TV. I know it's a big deal. I know how Black people were protesting the fact that, it seemed very racially profiled. And how I remember my daddy briefly speaking about how Jesse, I already knew about Jesse coming and being involved because I remember him briefly speaking about those things, which I did bring back to his attention a couple of days ago. But yep, I do remember.
I don't think that I remembered every single thing because I was in high school, but I don't think I knew all the gruesomeness to it. I knew a good amount of it. I knew about the cannibalism, but I don't know that I knew that much about the actual killings and what he did, because I was actually surprised, and I watched plenty of documentaries, and I don't know if I missed it, the part about him trying to make the people live longer by trying to drill in their brain and make them zombies.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that he had done that to the some of his victims. I didn't remember that.
Just because it wasn't something that it was of importance to us. We wouldn't care. It
right,
wasn't.
But you always have to think about in 1992, they wouldn't have put all those groups. You're still talking about when you couldn't say damn on TV without them censoring it or anything like that. Now you can say anything but the F word and get away with it. So they wouldn't have put on, we didn't have true crime TV. The true crime TV we had was Unsolved Mysteries. That was the extent of what we had. And
Court TV.
Court TV, that was very much redacted. So a lot of the details that we're getting now in this gruesomeness is new to us. But I do remember when the stories broke and them taking the body bags out and them taking the barrels out, and how absolutely disgusted we were that there was a cannibal in an urban area in the modern era. I mean, we didn't even know about Ed Gein. Most of us didn't know about that, or Albert Fish. The only cannibals we knew about were the headhunters in New Guinea. And, and that's so far away from us. We didn't even think about those things. But now, us talking about what we talk about every other week, it's kind of like, okay. But there is a lot of new controversy about Jeffrey Dahmer. And I was talking to my daughter, who fits the time period. I said, it's you young people who had no clue. He was like a cult figure, but no one really delved into him. But now you guys are completely disgusted. And they're like, but he was killing Black people. We're like, we know that. Yeah, we know that.
And he's not one of the only ones. Like,
no.
This my thing about this was there has been so many documentaries. There's My Friend Dahmer, and there's another one, Jeffrey Dahmer movie. And I just don't understand I don't understand the outrage about this, other than the fact that it's people who he wasn't on their radar and they turned on Netflix because they heard it was trending or something, and they're like, oh my gosh, these people.
Oh my God.
And you're enraged that this happened.
How could y'all want to watch this?
So much, so long ago.
You're giving him more power.
But here's the thing.
We've been knowing about this
forever. And these are the same people who watch fights on Instagram. These are the same people who watch celebrities go toe-to-toe on reality TV. These are the same people who watch people, like I said, people fighting and running each other over and all this stuff. So you cannot say, like, all of a sudden, like, this guy, and I'm not downplaying anything that he did because it's absolutely horrible. But you guys watch it right now. This happened 30 something years ago.
And it's a part of history. The reality is it is a part of history. It doesn't mean that it's not horrible. It is horrible. And even watching the new version of it on Netflix, I was like, God, this nigga was sick. That's what I was thinking. And because I learned new things that I didn't know from you learn something new every time you watch any new documentary about anybody. You learn something new. So, and it's not only that, it's just, I was thinking, like, are y'all really like this? Like, this is history. Like, this has already happened. Baby, this happened a long time ago. And this has been a part. There's a billion documentaries, a billion movies. He's not even the only one.
No. So, but I think we live in an era where, for right now, that it's trendy to be upset. It's trendy to be shocked. It's trendy to be appalled. And you're just like, you guys are absolutely appalled by the wrong damn things. The wrong things. You should be appalled about the many missing people that come up on my Twitter feed every day. I have seen so many missing children, adults, everybody. Women, children, every race, every demographic, just every morning when I log into Twitter. This is what you should be outraged about. Again, absolutely horrible what this man did, but Why are we getting why
How do you how do you guys feel about the fact that they took the LGBTQ tag off of the movie?
that it was because I don't think I'm
It's
shouldn't he
about
even
a
have been
gay serial it's about a gay serial killer who killed gay men. I mean, ain't nobody saying that everybody LGBTQ is Jeffrey Dahmer, but that's kind of the subject of the movie. I mean, not the subject, but
I
that's
didn't even know.
there's a lot. He
there?
went to a gay
I didn't
he
even
went
know
to a
that.
gay
I knew he was
club.
gay, but
Yes,
I
they
didn't know
did.
about them taking the
Because
tag off.
people got upset that, oh, you got an LGBTQ. But I mean, that's just a tag. It's just a tag for it, like being a drama or crime
He
or
was a gay man targeting other gay men or
yeah.
gay adjacent men. If they weren't gay, they were gay adjacent. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Girl,
just
it
I
was a
think that
thing. I'm just telling you.
that is
I
a
did not know
politically
that.
kind of
That's crazy.
well, that's
I'm
a
just telling you
politicking
what the folks out there are
Mm,
saying.
okay.
yeah.
And speaking of
Um
Ed Gein, did you hear him mention Ed Gein?
no, see, I need to watch his last
See,
2 episodes.
Yes, he did.
see, we ain't
I
gonna
need to
talk.
watch.
We can't even talk
Can't
No,
say
about
no
no,
more.
politics.
no, no. You
But
know
he did
what?
mention.
You know what? I
He
did because
mentioned him.
he was talking about when his dad, when the attorney went to talk to him, he
Yeah.
was talking about the comic book. Ironically enough, Brandy, we had a mutual, I don't know if you remember him, but his name was Brandon in junior high. We won't say his last name, but he's the one, I know about Ed Gein and Albert Fish because of Brandon. Um, Fascinating. Now, I don't think Brandon ended up being a serial killer because I'm quite sure we would know. Um, he well, they always say he had a personality, but I don't know, he didn't. But anyway, he actually had one of those comic books, the Ed Gein whatever comic books.
What?
I know about Ed Gein because of my junior high and high school friend. Like, so
No,
it's
I'm
a
not
thing.
reading no
It's a real
comic
thing.
book. I know
I don't read comic books, period.
I've
But he
seen
had one.
yeah. I've seen the Jeffrey Dahmer one, but it was done years ago.
Yeah, I saw the Ed Gein one because he actually did have one. He was completely fascinated with it.
No, we
He
might
did
need to look through some
fascinated.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did well. He's fine because I looked him up on Facebook a couple years ago. He's fine.
But is he
Um,
real?
if he's not, he'll come across our radar. I'm quite sure he'll come across our radar. But so yes. So let's start with because we'll just go on. Let's start at the beginning, which is not necessarily the beginning of the story of the movie, but let's start at the beginning of Jeffrey. We're gonna talk about Jeffrey's mom and dad.
Okay.
Do you think, having seen this, and I'm quite sure this is fictionalized in some way, having seen this story, how much blame or impact do his parents have on who he turned out to be?
I think the fact that his mom was dealing with what she was dealing with and that she was non-existent really, and the father was working a lot. If you listen to the father, he'll tell you that he tried to do things with his son. I know the thing that the movie fictionalized was him and his dad going out getting the roadkill. That his dad did not do that. That was something that Jeffrey did on his own. But if you listen to his dad outside of the movie, if you listen to his dad give interviews, he'll say that he tried to do different things with his son. But I think because his mother was the way she wasn't able to work. Had serious mental health issues, that the dad was out of the home most of the time. And Jeffrey was kind of in charge of him and his brother and kind of his mom's care. And in that way, he didn't get probably the love and attention that he probably craved. He didn't learn relationship skills.
Well,
He didn't really learn much of anything because he was always at home.
Do you think that his mom, because in the movie, his mom was already suffering from mental health while she was pregnant, and possibly on medication. Now we're talking about early 60s. So this is when, there was no restrictions on drinking or even smoking. And they were giving pregnant women, everybody, drugs that are illegal, now. Do you think that those things, her mental health, and then maybe if she was on some sort of prescription drug while she was pregnant, do you think that affected him at all?
Because then we would have a whole bunch of people rolling
That's what I
around
was
here
just
with
saying. Then it
same
would be a whole lot of
stuff.
people like that. Yeah, it would be a lot of people that way. So I don't think so.
I mean, I'm sure there's other
Necessarily.
kids that were born during that time that had effed up lives too.
I mean, I definitely think that her mental illness was a part of that was hereditarily given to him, a portion of that, only because it was so bad. And based on the movie, I haven't went back to look. I ain't for that. I didn't do that. Based on the movie and what the father said, it's been way beyond her. Like it's been just a kind of a thing. So I think that could have played a part, but not enough to where he got where he was at. I don't think her pills did that. No.
Okay. What do you think? Because I have an opinion on. Jeffrey was probably weird for a long time, and being weird in the early 60s was not a good thing like it is now. Like you can't just be you. But I have an opinion on when he realized, like he had an epiphany about who he was for real. Like when he became Jeffrey Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer that we know about. I have a moment watching this where I was like, holy shit. Like the light came on. I was like, ooh, oh my God. Like he was weird. He was doing the whole put himself in a yearbook because he was always kind of like an outcast kind of thing. He was already weird. But what part in the movie do you think that Jeffrey realized that he was really Jeffrey Dahmer? Like he came into this person that we knew.
You mean like
is there a part
into the serial killer part? I came into
the jogger.
Yes.
The jogger, yeah.
The jogger.
Because the moment that at first it was fear, it was of dang, I can't believe, because that was the rationalizing portion naturally to happen to be like, I can't believe I did this. But then he kicked in and it was like, oh, I did this. This is
the
what
jogger. Wait, the jogger or the hitchhiker?
The jogger was first. The jogger, he never did anything to the jogger. I think he wanted to with the jogger, but I think after he got the hitchhiker, was like, I think he had remorse for it, but I think there was something about it that brought him back to those animals and, the cutting them up and seeing all of that stuff. I think that kind of was like where he goes like, oh, okay, like.
I definitely think it was a hitchhiker, but give me a second. So with the jogger and hitchhiker is a part of this whole epiphany for me. So with the jogger, he keeps seeing him, right? He keeps passing him up, keeps seeing him. And then instead of approaching him, and this goes to what you said about not having social skills, not being socialized, not having people skills. Instead of approaching this guy, he gets a bat and he's waiting for him in the woods, right? And he does have a fit of consciousness because he's like, oh, wait a minute, why am I doing this? What am I doing? And I was like, what is he thinking at this point when he stops and the guy runs? Okay. So then he picks up the hitchhiker. He doesn't want him to leave. And he whatever. He hits him. He's remorseful. He does the dismemberment and all of that, right? He drags him underneath the house. The epiphany when Jeffrey realized exactly what he wanted to do was when the hitchhiker died and he was sexually gratified with the dead body, okay? And he's like, wait. When he realized that he was dead and he still got off from him being dead, and then when he chops that body up, and the cop stops him and he's railing him and he's like, I don't want to see you in here anymore. You're drunk or whatever, go home. If you go back to that episode Jeffrey's eyes dilated, like you see nothing but black in his eyes. And Evan Peters, I think that's the actor's name. He did a damn good job with that part for me, because his eyes dilated and you could see it was like if you've ever seen anyone do drugs, like hard drugs, and the feeling that what happens to them physically is their eyes change. Their eyes change. That him getting away with that, knowing what was in the back of that car, was like icing for him. Mm-hmm. Like he got everything he wanted. And I don't think Jeffrey really knew at that point that when he killed that hitchhiker that this is my thing. But when he knew he could get away with it, not only did I kill him, I had sex with the dead body. Then I was able to chop it up. And it was right there and they didn't catch me. So it was like, oh shit. And then when he did the LeBron with the damn dust from the bones, when he did like this, I was like, oh my God. That's when Jeffrey Dahmer became Jeffrey Dahmer. Mm-hmm. Because he realized that I don't really think he liked the killing. I don't really think he liked the killing, but he necessarily had to kill in order to get to the part that he wanted. You know what I mean? Like the killing was secondary. That wasn't his main goal. Because if he didn't
really want to do the killing. He just had to do it to get where he needed to go. That's why he was trying to zombify.
That's why he drugged them. Mm-hmm. That's why he always drugged them. And even the hitchhiker, he got him drunk. Have another beer, because he didn't want that part. He didn't know how, because with the roadkill, if we're going to go with that storyline, he didn't have to kill. He still got what he needed with a dead body. His goal was the body. I want it dead. And in order to get it dead, I have to kill it. And I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to do it.
So I have a question. We keep saying that he was awkward and weird and whatever. But somewhere along the way, he learned how to fit into society somewhat, because he's going to this club, he's especially with the guy who ends up getting away. He's going to the club, he's conversing with these people to a point where they're like, well, let's go out, outside of here, and they all go out together. He becomes kind of a regular in the club. So he had to have learn some type of skill as far as communicating with people.
He learned manipulation.
Yeah, I don't think it was. It was just to manipulate enough to get what he needed, because he still was awkward even in those situations, according to the movie. I mean, we weren't there. We don't know how he acted. I think he just did enough.
He did enough. He knew enough about people and himself to know that he would go under the radar. When that cop stopped him and let him go when he had that hitchhiker in the back of that car, that was a part of Jeffrey's epiphany. Because if you go back, that was a part of his epiphany. He figured out, they're going to let me go because I look like a wholesome kid. They're not going to do anything to me. They're going to let me go. Jeffrey looked so vanilla and so white bread that you would just overlook him. You would not look twice. He was just a regular ass middle American kid. So he knew that he could get under the radar. And if in one of the further episodes after he's arrested, his father thinks back on all the times when Jeffrey gave an excuse, when they knew Jeffrey had done something, and he always gave the most plausible excuse to get out of it. And it was just enough information so that his mom, his grandma, his dad, his stepmom, and everyone else around him would believe him. Oh, Dad, it's nothing. Oh, he's just drunk. He's just this. So what he knew was he was innocent looking enough, or innocuous looking enough, that he wouldn't raise eyebrows. So that's how he was able.
I don't think that his dad was blind to what he was doing. I think his dad knew something was going on.
Absolutely not. wasn't
no,
drunk.
I was just doing that. I'm like, his dad, he knew.
He just didn't know. He thought he was a trouble kid. That's why he tried to make him go in the military. And when that didn't work out, he made him get a job. And well, if you can't even get a job, well, at least go take care of your grandma.
What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that his dad didn't know, because I absolutely 100% believe that his dad knew that Jeffrey was fucking up and something was wrong with him. What I'm saying is, Jeffrey was able to give them plausible deniability. And they didn't want to face the fact that something was wrong with him, like a lot of people don't want to realize something's wrong with their kid. So if I give you a plausible enough excuse, you're going to go with it because you don't want to believe it anyway. So if I tell you, oh, we're just drinking, there's nothing. Oh, it's those pork chops, they just, my refrigerator went out. It's enough of the truth to sound, and you don't really want to dig too deep, because I don't really want to know what you're doing. I know you're doing something, but I don't want to know. Like when he.
So you just say so avoiding it, because you know, like you just said, you just want to avoid it at that point.
The box. Think about the box.
I don't want to think that my chat. I don't want to think.
I don't really want to know.
I know you did it, but I don't want
proof.
I don't want the proof.
I don't want you to tell me the truth. I want you to tell me enough of the truth, but not all of it. Think about the box. When Jeffrey's dad had got so fed up after the grandma called, when she had sit on the bus stop with the boy, and his dad is pissed off, and he's like, "Where's the box? Where's that damn box? The box that I gave you." Jeffrey's doing everything. He knew something was in there. He said, "There's something bad in there, isn't it?" Mm-hmm. And he could smell death in that damn box when he opened it. But because there was nothing in there, I can go ahead and deny that anything ever happened. That's what everybody in Jeffrey's life did. He's doing something.
Yep.
But him smelling like death, wasn't that normal for him?
Not
normal
human
for him?
Not human.
I mean, how do you know the dad knew what a human? A stink is a stink. Dead is a dead.
No, it isn't.
But I'm saying I'm saying that his dad might not have been able to differentiate what it was. He always smelled like decay. He was cutting up stuff down there.
I think he noticed that this decay is a little bit different. Something is different about, because even when he went into the basement, he noticed that the smell was different. He said, that doesn't smell like roadkill. That's way worse than roadkill. What is that? So at that moment, I think he did separate that it's different. This is a different smell, because he mentioned that.
I gotta try to stay within the movie and not go outside of what I know.
Yeah, we're just staying with the movie
and just try to stay in the movie. The dad was saying he knew that something was in there. He didn't think that it was a head or whatever. He knew something was in there, but his mind was thinking, oh, he probably has like porn and all this other stuff in there. And that he only did that because he was embarrassed for his dad to see that. The dad did not, according to the dad, he did not think it was something like anything to what it actually was. He thought his son was just embarrassed because it was pornography in there. That's what the dad says in real life.
I don't believe it.
Because there were a couple of instances. I'm going based on the movie, because in real life, I'm trying to put the two together. He knew that there was something different because there was no women in his life. Now, also, here you are now with this sexual assault case against a boy or a man in Army that he is fully aware of.
So was he happy to see the porn?
No. I didn't say he was happy to see the porn. I think that he knew that
he's not shocked by it.
He's not shocked. He wouldn't be shocked by it. He wants him to look at porn, because he even told him, "Do you need some porn? Do you need to talk about sex?" He wanted that. It needed it to normalize him. It needed to make it seem like he's a normal boy, and he didn't have none of those things. I think that he kind of knew it was bad. He just didn't want to know how bad that was. Like, I know that something in here was bad, but long as I see this porn, I don't want to know. Long as the porn is in here, I'm good. And I wouldn't. And considering how embarrassed they were about being gay, or knowing that your child is gay, or how disapproving it was in that time frame, if I wouldn't have dared went on and be like, I know it was because I'm embarrassed by the porn. No, I would have come up with some kind of story, because I don't want them to know that the worst thought that he had, which I believe, is knowing that my son is gay.
Oh, he wouldn't have wanted to deal with that.
No. I don't think that he wanted to know
he
that
didn't want to
he
deal
was
with that,
gay.
baby.
But I think knowing that Jeffrey was gay was the lesser of the evils that he thought
of course.
about.
But you have to remember, these are Christians.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. He already knew Jeffrey was gay. It's obvious. But if there was porn in that box, it would have been okay. At least it's what I already know.
I'll take the porn.
Yeah, I already know. I don't, but whatever.
I'll take the porn.
I'll take the gay. But I think he thought, I don't know, I don't think he was in his head thinking my son is a cannibal. No, absolutely
no.
But I think
how could you even
you can't even formulate that.
Yeah, no.
But I think that with what Jeffrey allegedly was into as a kid, and then allegedly what Jeffrey's dad was into at some point, he's adding all of this together. He's adding up all of these random ass moments when Jeffrey got into trouble or got into something and he knew something was wrong and Jeffrey gave him this bullshit ass excuse and I went with it. Hindsight being 2020, he's putting all this shit together and he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's more than this gay. It's more than him being with a man. It's more than that. What else could it be? Because yes, you cannot fathom cannibalism, but what else is it? What did he do?
And as a father, I'm just gonna give him his credit. He did whatever it took. As a parent, he did whatever he felt. I'm talking about to try to make. What I'm trying to say is no, what he did was stupid. He knew what was going on, and I think he didn't go over and beyond in order to get him the help he needed. No, he didn't, because he was in denial. He was in denial about a lot of things.
Getting help back then? People weren't even getting help.
I mean, it wasn't a thing. I mean, he tried with that little note, he tried, but I think as a father, as wrong as it was, he was trying his best to help his son get out of every situation that he had put himself in. Mm-hmm. And as a father, in his mind was, okay, how do I get my son out of this problem so that we can get past this and try to get him somewhere new?
I think he felt guilty.
Get my son out of this problem.
Oh, of course he felt guilty. Do you think,
as a parent, we feel guilty, but we still do it?
Do you think that he was trying to come up with something, and only thing he can do, because you remember the letter he wrote to the jail, that it had to be his alcoholism that caused all of this? Because he didn't know the bad stuff his son was doing, but you still try to find, why is my child doing this or that? And he's an alcoholic. It has to be that he's an alcoholic. That has to be it.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I don't think that he was retrospective looking back and what have I done, until it got, when we found out the whole nasty, gruesome story. That you have to, it can't be alcoholism at this point. It is something deeper. And then even then, he didn't even want to put it on himself. He was putting it on the mom. But then when he realized that, oh my gosh, it was me, it could have been me, then he was a whole mess. But I think at that time, the only thing that he really knew that was wrong with his son, it has to be this alcohol. It has, and then we all know when people go to prison, we know that people go to prison, they're not getting help. They weren't getting help then. They're not getting help now. They hardly getting fed over here in Alabama. They striking because the folks don't want to work like dogs, and they not getting fed. So definitely they're not gonna be getting no help for whatever ails them or whatever going on with them. You're not gonna get help because he's a pedophile. Not gonna get help because he's an alcoholic. So I think that's what the dad pulled on. It has to be the alcoholism, which you see in the movie when he finds out that he did not get the help. He just crumbled
Yeah.
on the other side of the wall, like, oh my gosh, what else is to come? He did not get the help he needed.
Yeah, because when the first time he went to prison, he was like, maybe this is good for you and you'll get some help. But I think as far as the parents and them feeling guilt, if nothing else, and this is not saying that this is justified or this makes Jeffrey a sympathetic character or anything, but his parents were there. He had a nuclear family, but they abandoned him. They abandoned both their children. When the mom was going through whatever she was going through, the dad leaves the crazy mom, who he says is crazy, with 2 small children. And you go off and you have affairs. Then when they get a divorce, the mom is like, Jeffrey can do what he wants to do. He's 17, which, can be pretty common. You're 17, stay, whatever. But the dad just up and leaves for 3 months. And then he gets back, he's like, well, where's your mom? You haven't called your son for 3 months and you wonder what the hell he's been up to? He's 17. I can tell you exactly what he's been up to. Y'all didn't leave that boy with no money. He just had a house and whatever. What 17-year-old is going to be in the house by themselves for 3 months and not get into something? They abandoned him. And then when he was at his worst, they tried to still blame everything external instead of looking at themselves. Even in the end, according to the movie, the mom still tried to kill herself. You still don't want to deal with, and it's crazy. The irony is that she became a counselor to everybody else, but still couldn't connect with your son. Like, you never reached, she blamed him. Well, you never wanted to connect with me. He was 7.
An AIDS counselor, so she was dealing with a whole lot of homosexual men in the 80s.
But you still could not connect with your son. You still could not connect with the thing that you made, the thing that you built. Because if you deal with it, then you have to realize that part of what he is or who he is abuse.
You know whose side I really want to hear in this is his little brother. But his brother is gone. Nobody knows where he's at, and he changed his name, so we don't know. But I would love to hear his brother's recollection of his relationship. Well, his brother. Well, from the movie we can say that that Jeff loved his brother and his brother loved him. But his recollection on Jeff, but not just Jeff, his recollection on his mother, was his mother the same way with him, even though they favored him? Was she, because she still has issues whether she favored him or not. She still has these issues. And the father, what was his recollection on his relationship with his parents?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And we may never know that because he doesn't want to be found.
I don't like him. I would never come out and tell people who I am. I would never.
Can you imagine having the name Dahmer for the rest of your life?
Because you'd have to answer these questions.
Dahmer is synonymous with cannibalism.
That's the word now. It is equivalent to that. Okay, so since you just said that the Dahmer is synonymous with cannibalism, where do you think? Because there's a lot. The word that we keep hearing is monetize, idolization. That we're fetishizing Jeffrey, that we are, where do you think that this is true, that the new movie
Absolutely
and all this
not.
is monetizing him, and we're admiring him too much, we're making him
there are so many crime shows, and where there's a death in every show. For Criminal Minds, for example.
Criminal Minds is based off of real stuff.
Yes, it is. Yes. Just different names.
And you can
same stuff. Sometimes
what they're talking about.
Yes.
Same serial killers, sometimes a mix of serial killers. That thing is on about to come back on his 14th season.
Like, you remember the one that there was a show that one of the episodes
if you can look, that Brandy, didn't you send me, one of y'all send me the website where you can link them to real stuff?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. There was one about John Pinkton, who was a pig farmer in Canada.
Yeah, I was going to say that one.
In the show, you can recognize, if you know the stories, you know exactly what they're talking about. So when people say we're idolizing Jeffrey, we're like, how? How? And
If
I
that's
think
the case, then
because they're talking about Evan Peters, not Jeffrey Dahmer.
That's what it
if,
is. Because you're looking
that's
at
the
Evan.
case, then Netflix needs to take down all its documentaries, crime documentaries. We need to stop watching all the crime shows. We need all the other documentaries and stuff about Jeffrey Dahmer that nobody paid attention to until now.
Mm-hmm.
Take all of that away. Take all the Silence of the Lambs. Take that away. Because that's based, that's like cannibal.
Based on, right.
Yeah.
And based on several serial killers.
Or is it that are they just so naive to what kind of real serial killers out here that you think Jeffrey Dahmer is the worst? He's not the worst. Now, is cannibalism horrible? Hell yeah. That is bad. But his murder methods isn't the worst murder methods that's ever happened.
And he's not the
he
first
looked up
one.
to Ed. I mean, look at the people that he was impressed by in the he's not the worst one in the world. So he's bad. He's up there at the top, but he's not the worst one.
Okay,
and even if you consider him, the worst one, that's still fine.
I think
what I'm saying is that there's still a bracket of men or a bracket of serial killers who are in the same bracket. They're that
make Jeffrey look like what he's done. Not the killing, but what the makes Jeffrey and his crimes seem real mid. And this is not diminishing the victims at all.
Not at
but
all.
What he's done, because Jeffrey is not a psychopath. Jeffrey is a sociopath. So a psychopath would have tortured the shit out of every single victim and disemboweled them while they were still alive. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey drugged them because he did not necessarily want to go through the whole screaming and all of they screamed, but he wanted to kind of diminish their awareness as much as possible. Yeah, I'm going to kill you, but I'm not going to disavow you while I kill you. You know what I mean? While you're still there.
Because let's talk about
But I think the reason for the monetization, I think the reason people are upset is because we're reminded that the bulk of his victims were Black in a poor neighborhood. And some say that they think he moved there purposely to victimize them. I, however, think
I don't think so.
That's what he could afford. He didn't have no job.
That's what I thought.
He didn't have anything.
That's what I thought.
So he had to live in the hood.
Because
he did
not have a victim profile in mind. His victim profile was anybody who was willing to go with him. And
anybody that was within his vicinity.
In a white neighborhood, he would have done it.
He would have done the same thing because he did it twice.
Yes.
He killed 2 white guys.
He did.
So he was a proximity killer. Proximity.
That was the one. I was like, because they're moved to the neighborhood. No, that was the cheap rent he can get. That's where he went to.
When he got away with the little boy, where the police let him go, I think that wasn't, oh my gosh, I got away with killing a ethnic kid. That was, I got away with it again.
With murder.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because remember the bags in the back. I got away with it again.
And again, the bags were right there. The body was right there. And you guys still didn't get it. You smelled my horrible apartment. You didn't question it. The body was in the bedroom.
Like
the head was in my refrigerator.
My uncle's a cop. I can promise you, even if he doesn't have to do the detective work, what he don't forget is dead bodies and they smells. He said, because no matter where you at, they take over the whole proximity. It is horrible. So they should know that.
Doesn't leave.
But there are other stories where the police were in Black neighborhoods and people complained about a smell.
Anthony Sowell.
And they did nothing.
Was that Cleveland that happened?
Yes.
He had 13, 14 prostitutes in his house.
And the people complained about the smell and the police did nothing.
He had literally bodies piled in the second and third floor to where the fluids were soaked through the floorboards. And all the neighbors were like, y'all need to check that out. So again, this again,
And he was
Jeffrey
black,
not.
and that was a black man.
It's all about him being in that neighborhood because that's where he can afford. And I think if he was in a Mexican neighborhood or a Hispanic neighborhood, all of his victims would have been Hispanic. If he was in a predominantly Asian neighborhood, all his victims would have been Asian, and he would have likely gotten away with it just the same because of the color that he was.
Yeah, I do believe,
because he definitely didn't have.
And the fact that they were gay, the victims were gay. The victims are not white and they are gay.
I do believe that he was able to get away with so many because his victims were black. I think if he would have stayed in a white neighborhood and he would continue killing, he would have got caught way sooner. But the fact is, who's gonna look
together?
Who's gonna look for some missing? Who's gonna look for some missing gay black men?
He didn't tie that they were black. He was tying that I've gotten away with murder. You could tell he did not tie like
it was
these are black gay men. No,
because
he was kind of like, I got these men. Like I can't believe I got away with it this long.
And on top of that, if most of the victims had been white, the investigation still would have been slow because they were gay. So the thing that ties the investigation and the police being slow about it would have been the gay. It would have accelerated because they might have been white. But because they were people black and Asian,
and possibly have AIDS, because we don't want to do nothing with the AIDS. We don't want to touch the AIDS. We don't even
want to go over there. What questions did I have? Okay, because we're gonna run out of time. We want to make sure we hit this. Jackie, you mentioned Tony's episode, so I'm gonna ask what stood out to you in this series the most to you.
That episode let me tell you why it stood out. Not that there wasn't other parts. That was the vulnerable moment. That was the moment that made him look like it was a possibility that he can vendor differently from where he had already been.
But you knew he wasn't because you already.
But I knew he wasn't. Right, but I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know he had a vulnerable moment in what he did. I didn't know that. And when they showed that episode, I was like, what? Really? I was really shocked that he had found somebody that he potentially could have been with, or potentially, whatever, could have built something with someone who cared about him, someone that he enjoyed. So I just was so mind bottled.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I think that people are surprised.
I don't care. That's how I reacted. I was like, what? Why? You already let it go.
I think people are surprised about that because people assume that he was a psychopath and he didn't care.
No, vulnerable as in was trying to live normal, like was trying not to be like, I need a dead cold body to lay next to. At that point.
I think he liked him, but in the end, Jeffrey liked him in the same way that you like your cow that you get with your FFA.
Yeah, now I know that. But in the moment, I didn't know that.
I'm going to nurture it. I'm going to pet it.
But he didn't do that.
But when it's time for the slaughter, that cow still has to die.
Right, but he didn't do that with anyone else.
No, again, I understand. But there was never, I don't believe that there was ever a doubt that Jeffrey was going to kill him. That Jeffrey didn't know that he was going to kill him. I like him. I'm going to keep him around longer. But I'm still going to kill him.
The thing about that episode to me was, it was the silent episode.
Oh, that part was absolutely brilliant because you really got a chance to understand what someone in the deaf community. I think that's the first movie that I've ever seen with a deaf character that the audience doesn't hear anything, just like the deaf person doesn't. I mean, no music, no sound, no nothing. So when it was focused on Tony, it was absolutely a focus on Tony and his experience, not anyone else's. It was his experience that you had. It was an amazing episode.
It was amazing.
It was an amazing episode. And honestly, I didn't cry at that episode. I did not cry. I'm going to tell you when I cried. when Niecy Nash's character, Geraldine or whatever her name is, went to the funeral for the Laotian boy. And she sat next to his dad, and she's like, I'm sorry. And the dad was comforting her. I lost it. When that father was like, no, you did everything that you were supposed to, I was like, oh, I'm done. That did it for me. Out of all those episodes and all the goriness, even Tony's episode, that really touched me. But I thought in that episode, since I knew I wasn't going to get caught up in the emotion on that episode because I knew he was still going to die.
Niecy made me quite emotional. I felt
if she
so
doesn't
bad.
Get Emmy for this, if she doesn't get an Emmy for this, we got a problem. She better get an award for this.
My heart for her was just like, and the damage that it had on her afterwards was
her job.
Oh my God. It was she definitely was it.
What was your moment?
For me, it was when she went to the wedding and she was talking to the dad, and he says that I smile, but I only smile for them.
Yeah.
That part right there, like his son, not only was his first son violated and they did anything, they totally disrespected him in that court. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Came to this country poor, in this country that he thought was going to be so much hope, took his first son, and then physically took his second son. And then he says, I smile for them.
Yeah.
And
that was more emotional for me.
And even though I felt that she felt the same because of what she had experienced. And we know that the real lady did not live across the hall from him. She was down the hall, down a couple buildings, but just from the movie, that she really experienced what he experienced, not because her child was taken away, because she was there for everyone's child that was taken away. And she felt the loss of every child that was taken away. So even when she smiled, she necessarily she was smiling for everyone else too.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had so much pain and
she was really an advocate for all of them.
Yes, she was.
She was an advocate for all of them. Brandy, you had asked me when we were first watching this, when this first came out, we were talking about people with the Niecy Nash's character and the people in the building not calling the police, or no one really knowing what Jeffrey was doing. And I said that for the most part, urban people, speaking of in more specifically Black people, we leave shit alone. You know what I mean? Like we like she would have been like the standout person that was making the most in the court.
But we gonna report a smell. We gonna report a smell. The fact that they wouldn't do anything, we gonna mind our business. But a smell that's creeping into your apartment too. If somebody blows too much reefer, do the thing. You're gonna be like, my grandmother lives here. She got COPD. She can't be dealing with you all smoking all this reefer and blowing all the smoke in the thing. But for the most part, if it's not directly affecting us, we're not going to do it. His actual neighbor that lived across the street for them was a couple, and I remember them saying he was such a nice guy. He always said hi to us. He was a nice guy. And
that's why a lot of people get away with stuff in your neighborhoods, because they're a nice person. This is why Jeffrey was able to go under the radar for so long, because he was a nice guy. And even though there's this funky ass smell coming, he can explain it away by his refrigerator. And you know what? It don't make sense. The smell and the rotten pork chops really don't. The math.
But he wanted it to out.
Right. The math ain't nothing on the rotten pork chops and that smell. But because he's a nice guy and he gave a plausible excuse, we'll go with it.
They say that this is outside the movie, but which was true in the movie, is that they said, his neighbors said that he always spoke to everyone. He made everyone sandwiches, and We don't know what was in those sandwiches, but that he made everyone sandwiches all the time. Like he was a nice guy. He was a good neighbor, and he was
John
friendly,
Wayne
and he
Gacy had
shared
a
what
whole
he.
ass barbecue, a neighborhood barbecue,
I
and
mean, he could
invited
say
the entire neighborhood.
like my freezer.
It's not funny. It's
My
not funny.
freezer went out and I have all this extra meat that I couldn't, that
Oh
I
Lord,
could
they was
fit
eating
in my
them.
refrigerator. And the lady was saying that, she's still haunted by the fact, like, did I eat a human?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did.
you did.
You
But
did.
when you eat a sandwich and you'd be like, something ain't right with this sandwich, like it's not a turkey sandwich.
But he's already explained that his refrigerator went out.
Girl, I'm not, even
I'm
if
not
his
eating it.
refrigerator was tasting funny, I ain't gonna eat it.
But
Look, me and you, we
I don't
understand.
think that he
Because if you tell me,
necessarily was feeding the people. I don't think he was that type
I'm
of
not gonna
serial
eat from your
killer.
house no way because of smell.
I think in
I'm
the
not gonna eat from your house
movie,
because I don't eat strangers' food.
I think in the movie that he gave that sandwich to her because it had drugs in there. He might have wanted to knock her out, or because to save his face. But I don't think he would give his neighbors, because it wasn't getting pleasure in watching other people eat. He wasn't that type of serial killer. He wouldn't have got pleasure off. Now there are some that would have got pleasure off of that. We don't know, but
He
I'm
was
just
cooking.
saying.
So you think that the same kitchen that he cooking human food in, and eating
There
his
might
own
have been
food,
traces. It might have been traces, but I don't think
he
he put.
contaminate? Let's just
I don't
talk
think.
about
I don't
contamination.
think.
Bodie in his refrigerator on the second
You don't think it
shelf.
I
contaminated?
don't think I don't think he was like Ed Gein. Just cooking up. I don't think he was sharing it with other people. I think that was just something that he wanted because it felt like that person. I think he was doing that because that person was within him, and
Quick
it was
fact.
that
Quick
whole thing.
fact. Why it could be, because what they don't tell you is y'all probably didn't heard it. I don't know. I don't really care. So when he had so much body parts that he couldn't cut them up enough, he started putting them down the toilet because he didn't know where else to put the body parts. He was flushing them, a lot of them down the toilet. His bathroom, the acid that he had was very, very, very low grade. It couldn't kill as much as they want you to think. It didn't have that much power. It would take days for it to break down a body, and let alone a couple of bodies. And if he flushing down meat because he's trying to get rid of meat, you don't think that maybe he slipped a piece?
I mean, there might have been traces, I'm saying, but I don't think he just put a leg shank in somebody's sandwich and served it. Now, there might have been traces, like you might have traces of cocaine on your dollar bill, or you might have a little roach dust, on your white bread. But I don't think that he was just sharing his stuff. That was just for him, and a way for him to keep that with him, his whole spiritual situation. I don't think he was sharing that outside. Just like when you have something, if you got a thing of oxtail, you ain't about to share that.
Brandy. That's oxtail. It's not the same. It's not the
But
same.
he loved it more. He loved it more than oxtail is what I'm saying. I don't think he would have shared that with his neighbors. Now he might have used the same knife that might have had remnants.
I'm gonna tell you what I think about him sharing, the possibility of him sharing the meat. Just like Jeffrey got off on getting away with his crimes and the police not knowing that he was doing what he was doing, I think that I believe that there's a strong possibility that he did feed some of that meat to his neighbors. And the reason why I think that, maybe he didn't do it all the time, but the reason why I think that is because he didn't like people antagonizing him and challenging him. And so the fact that his neighbors kept telling the super and calling the police on him,
now, are
he's
we
like,
talking
I'm
about
gonna
the
get
movie,
over
or are we talking about real life?
real life.
Real life.
But they
Real
liked
life.
him. They liked him.
No, but they're still calling the police because of the smell.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure they was telling the super that
they're still calling the super. So you're putting him in an impossible situation, because if he has to move, what the hell am I going to do with all these bodies? So it's your fault that I might have to move because they keep on me about the smell. So guess what I'm going to do? He's very vindictive, very
Have a
manipulative, and
have a
very
leg
vindictive.
shank.
But my
Very
thing is,
vindictive.
wouldn't it taste a little bit off? You would take a bite
Have
and
a
be like,
leg shank.
Absolutely.
What?
like I'm
Absolutely.
good.
But
Or what
listen,
if?
but
Or
listen,
what if you're mixing it? If you're mixing the meats,
Still,
but listen to this.
still,
we know
Listen,
that.
listen to this.
we
Okay,
don't
so
even eat folks' potato salad.
we're gonna take this back a little further. There's a reason why Black people overseason and oversalt our food, right? We already know what the reason is. It's because when we were enslaved, we got the worst meat possible. That shit has not changed by 1992. They're giving us the meat that's in the local markets is the worst shit on the planet. And what they do is they regrind it. So yes, you might get some meat that's not as good because you don't have any money. He's in a very poor neighborhood. Those people would have been used to.
And he was a butcher.
He was a butcher to low grade meat. Who's to say that he didn't take that to the butcher shop? He already knew what he was doing. I'm just saying that it's a possibility because we're already at that point.
I mean, I guess you could say it's a possibility, but I just don't see them. I mean, the lady did say she ate the sandwich and she was thinking about it. It was an older Black lady. So, it's in her mind that she might have done it. But my thing is, if you getting a sandwich, it's just something.
Brandy, that's because you are very, very particular.
Something.
Very particular.
Something ain't right.
And I have never had to eat subpar meat. I have never had to eat rotten meat. I've been fortunate not to be that unfortunate to where I would have to, that I can be very particular about the things that I eat. And Brandy, and Jackie, at my size, it don't make sense if somebody my size is as picky as they are. So yes, we can be picky. We can turn up our nose and be like, that's not it. But people in a certain situation are literally living hand to mouth, taking the scraps from the butcher shop, knowing that meat probably was what they were about to throw out.
Now, are we doing too much saying that they were hand to mouth? Because we don't know if them people were hand to mouth.
I'm just saying generally, I'm not saying all the people in the building or all the people in the neighborhood, but I'm just saying that in that neighborhood was that type of neighborhood. And it's a possibility. We're talking about possibility. It is a possibility.
Yeah, definitely possible.
Brandy's not going to move on this, just like she wasn't going to move on that taxidermy shit. So we're gonna stop here.
No, I'm saying it's possible, but I'm just saying. And I'm sure they probably want to get.
We had this big ass discussion about taxidermy and what that meant, and Jeffrey and all this. But we're not gonna get in that because we're gonna run out of time. Because that right there was like a whole 2-hour ass argument about that.
Stand firm on it. It still stands firm.
But you didn't hear the taxidermy. You didn't hear my part about the taxidermy.
We're not going to go into it either with your
that we have. That'll be off camera at another time. Another time, Jackie.
Okay. Gets real sharp. When her chin gets real sharp, Look at her nose. Look at her nose. Her nose and her chin are at the same angle. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and stop talking about Jeffrey. So hopefully, if you watch this episode, you'll understand our different perspective. Hopefully, this is a conversation that no one else has had about Jeffrey, at least about the movie and what they, different parts of the thing. Okay, we got like 5 minutes. Jackie, do you watch Sister Wives?
No, but I mean, Jenny told me about the controversy, but I don't watch it. But I know about the controversy. I know. You want me to get Jenny?
Okay, go get Jenny. Go tell Jenny to come down. We gotta talk about Cody real quick.
Oh, she told me Jenny has been watching since day one.
I've been watched season 16.
Well, we can talk about it, Brand. Even though I don't watch it, I'm very familiar with what's going on this season, and I watched clips and read articles. So I know that Cody is being a straight up ass and should be by himself for the rest of his life for how he's acting.
Man,
My sister has been so like when I tell you, she has been like, who is he? I'm sorry, that's why I know, because she has been venting about it, even though I don't watch.
Oh my God.
That's how
I don't
pissed
watch
she's
it
been.
because I know that mentally and physically and spiritually, I can't handle Cody. It would affect me every day, all day. So I cannot watch.
Last week I was catching up on season 16, and it was like 3:00 in the morning. I had to wake up at 6 to go to work, and I was still watching it.
Cody is a trigger. Cody is a trigger for me. And I know that I can't deal with Cody. I can take him a little bit discussing it with Brand, but I cannot watch Cody just because I've watched previous seasons and he's a trigger for me, and I just can't because
that's why I don't watch it. I do not like,
because I will take Cody with me throughout the day, and I will be all turned up.
So he tells Christine that she's like, I'm leaving or whatever. So he's like, promise me that you won't get a boyfriend who's gonna try to take our money and da da da. She's like, it'll never happen.
But so you have how many wives?
You gotta jump in because they'll just keep going.
So she's like, I'm leaving. He's like, okay. But then when she's telling the wife, he's like, I never said that. I never said you could leave. You didn't ask me.
But he's always been like that.
He's always so surprised. Like, how are you?
They used to gang up on him. He would always say he didn't say. Well, he's a gaslighter. Let's just say he's a gaslighter. He would say the things. Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And they're like, Cody, yes, you did. Like, they're all four of them would gang up on him, and he would still be strong on his stance.
You tell Christine that you no longer want an intimate relationship with her, but you want to sleep in her bed?
For what?
Are you kidding me?
You just got.
Are they still recording?
Mm-hmm. I know.
We just want you to on the last 2 episodes of System Wives.
The last few minutes we got.
Hey, Jenny. Hi. This is Jenny, y'all. So we're going to talk about System Wives for like a few minutes. Okay, Jesus. I know you watched the last 2 episodes.
Would you like my input on it?
Yes, ma'am. Because I don't even know where to start.
Like narcissist. Okay. Cody's a narcissist, and Christina's right for leaving because he don't love her. He wants the perks of having another wife, so he could say, "I'm Cody Brown, and I have 4 wives." Robin is the main wife now. And Mary should have never divorced Cody, so that Robin could be the main wife, so he could adopt her kids.
My thing is, you adopted her kids when half of your kids don't even have your name on their birth certificate.
That part.
Adopt your own damn kid.
How about take care of your own kids?
He wants 50-50 custody of Truly, and you don't even see her. And she live around the corner.
Up the street.
Can't even come out in the yard to say hey to her.
Nothing. He's basically
COVID. I understand COVID was serious, but he took it to the extreme.
Every time he mentions because of COVID, I'm like, sir, that is not the reason. You could have called your kids. You're not even calling them. You're not seeing them. You could, just like you guys have 6 feet apart when you guys have these little husband and wife meetings. Why can't you do that with your kids?
That's because he's too into Robin. He's into Robin and her family. He pretty much
in real life, if it was just him and Mary, he would have divorced Mary and just
a long time
with Robin.
A long time.
And Robin would have been his second wife.
He told Christine that marrying her was basically a mistake, and he felt pressured into doing it.
Pressured into marrying.
Our marriage wasn't arranged. It wasn't like she got pregnant and he had to marry her or anything. And he based his attraction to Christine on how she treated the other wives, meaning how she treated Robin. She didn't want to Robin too.
And you know what? That's a freaking lie, because he has always said he wanted 4 wives. He's thinking about bringing in another one to make it 4. So for him to even tell Christine that is a bold-faced lie, because he's always said he wanted 4 wives.
And then to sit there and tell her that we can be married and not have an intimate relationship. No, sir, we cannot.
He was like, because me and Mary do it. She's like, oh, I don't want that. And she said when Mary told her just when they were talking about the property, she's like, just suck it up. And she was looking at Mary like,
he don't even like Mary. He don't even like her. Like as a person,
He don't like
he
nobody
doesn't
but
like
Robin.
her.
He don't like nobody but Robin. Because Robin.
He liked Christine more than he liked Mary.
Yeah. That's because Robin's a yes woman. Yes, Cody. Whatever you say, Cody.
And all that damn crying she be doing.
You like, okay, the crying and them damn eyebrows.
She cried at the drop of her head. I know I'm sensitive, but she's sensitive.
Christ, why do you have those damn eyebrows? And I know y'all are doing your own makeup because y'all filming during COVID, but sis, when you look at your film,
you don't see that?
You like them eyebrows.
This is her eyebrow.
Probably can't change it because Cody won't let him.
Oh my God. And then
He really
had this last episode, Christine's mom, who apparently Cody knew that was sick. They call her. She jumps in the car like, hey, my mom is sick. I gotta go. He lets her go. She dies an hour into the drive. And Cody doesn't go to her. Talk about, yes, this is my first mother-in-law. And you did, well, you know what? You didn't even go to your daughter having a spinal surgery.
Yeah.
I haven't even watched the other one. Oh my God,
you weren't even there for your other granddaughter having her leg amputated.
Yep.
But because of COVID. So you couldn't quarantine 2 weeks ahead of time and then drive there.
He couldn't put on an N95. He could have put on two N95s.
He said because his other children need their care too. So you couldn't go see Isabel because your other kids, I'm quite sure all 18 of your other kids would have understood Isabel's having a surgery. You need to go be with her.
Yeah, they were all healthy.
You know what trips me out is he won't go see his other kids, but y'all bring because of COVID, but y'all bring a nanny into y'all's house. And she got COVID. Who got COVID?
First of all, why do you need a nanny? It's COVID. Ain't nobody going to school.
Why does she need a nanny? Because she has less kids. Christine had more kids than her. Christine was taking care of Mary's daughter and Janelle's kids, as well as her own kids.
All those other kids had someone else to take care of them. So Janelle's kids had someone to take care of them. Mary's daughter had someone to take care of them. So now Robin needs the same thing. Robin needs someone else to help take care of her kids since Christine won't come in. And she said that, throughout their entire marriage, she was the one that was like, yes, I'll do this, I'll do that. Always smiling, always doing this.
True, because Mary was coming in and helping too. Mary has a very close relationship with Robin's kids, very close relationship. So she was getting help from Mary. So she don't need no.
McKelty was helping Robin when she first got there.
She didn't need no nanny.
She don't need nanny now. She just wanted because she can have Cody gonna get
Cody could have helped her. It was COVID.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want you want your own kids to keep social distance, but you brought a nanny in during COVID.
And they glossed right over that. He glossed right over that.
And the nanny got COVID at y'all's house.
Because it wasn't about COVID. That's why. It wasn't about the COVID.
That part.
I can't wait about the COVID. Janelle's son Garrison can't stand him.
Christine's son can't stand him either.
No, when Gabriel tried to come to him, he blew poor little Gabriel off. Had the boy crying and shit.
Wow.
Oh, I shouldn't have started watching it again. I stopped watching it. I started and I restarted because I kept seeing the video and stuff.
I watched it for a lot of seasons and then I just couldn't take Cody. And I know his behavior.
Like 2 seasons after Robin, when they moved to Las Vegas, God was like, I've had enough. I've had enough. I can't. Because Robin
and the reason that
crying.
they so jacked up is because he made bad money since and had them bouncing all around here, hither and yon. Because they all used to live
in that one house. It's a mess. Well, we'll go ahead and end the show. Thank you, Jenny, for joining us for a completely different show at the end, talking about Sister Wives.
We could really go on another hour, but
yes, talking about Sister Wives. We'll go ahead and end. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Black Coffee and Crime. Enjoy your next cup.